It's a little bit of an outer space medley, get things started here. I've never been to outer space, but I'm assuming it sounds like this. She packed my bags last night, pre-flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m. I'm gonna be high. Oh, high as a kite by then. I miss the earth so much. I miss my wife. It's so lonely out in space. Such a time world, a timeless flight as this. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around to 5. Not that man, I think I am at home. What? No, no, I'm a rocket man. Rocket man, burning out his fuse if he alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Touchdown brings me round to 5. Not that man, think I am at home. What? No, no, I'm a rocket man. Rocket man, burning out his fuse if he alone. Mars ain't the kind of place to raise your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell. No one there, no, to raise them if you did. And all this science, I just don't understand. Just my job 5 days a week. Rocket man, no, whoa, no, no. Rocket man. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around to 5. Not that man, I think I am at home. What? No, no, I'm a rocket man. Rocket man, burning out his fuse of people alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around to 5. Not the man I think is heading home. What? No, no, I'm a rocket man. Rocket man, burning out his fuse up here alone. Gonna be a long, long time. I think it's gonna be a long, long time. I think it's gonna be a long, long time. control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your vegan protein pills and put your helmet on. Ground control to Major Tom. Commencing countdown, engines on. Check ignition and may God's love be with you. This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade. Now the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. It's time to leave the capsule if you dare. This is ground control to Major Tom. I'm stepping through the door, and I'm floating in the most peculiar way. And all the stars look very different today. For here, sitting in a tin can, all across the world, planet Earth is blue. There's nothing I can do. Though I crossed 100,000 miles, I'm feeling very still. I think my spaceship knows which way to go. Tell my wife I love her very much. She knows. Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit's dead. There's something wrong. Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear floating in a tin can far above the moon? Planet Earth is blue. Nothing I can do. You got a fast car, fast enough so you can fly away. Gotta make a decision, leave tonight or live and die this way. Any place is better, start from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something, me, myself, I got nothing to prove. Oh, you got a fast car, I got a plan to get us out of here. Working at the convenience store, managed to save a little bit of money. Won't have to drive too far, cross the border and into the city. You and I could both get jobs, finally see what it means to be living, yeah. Oh, you got a fast car, it's fast enough that we can fly away. Gotta make a decision, leave tonight or live and die this way. I remember when we were driving in your car. Speeds so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City light lay out before us, yeah. Arms felt nice round my shoulder, and I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, yeah. You got a fast car. I got a job that pays all the bills. Stay out drinking late at the bar. See more Guz than you do your kids who said, I always hope for better. Thought maybe together you and me could find. Ain't got no plan, going nowhere. Take your fast car and keep on driving, yes. Oh, you got a fast car. Is it fast enough so you can fly away? Gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live or die this way. And I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, it felt like I was drunk. City light lay out before us, and your arms felt nice round my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belong. I had a feeling I could be someone to say, whoa, I a feeling that I belong. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone, be someone. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last week, I'm so glad y'all tuned in here. That was a little medley for you right there. We started in outer space, then brought it down to ground level. My name is Ben Hammond. Please follow me on Instagram and all the things. And this doesn't have to be the end of the party. Just because it's the last week, we can keep partying. I will be doing some live streams on my Facebook eventually, so check that out as well over the winter, when it'll be good to stay inside and safe and socially distanced. Thank you all so much for having me, and have a great show.
Awesome. Oh, we got no Ben. I was gonna say, we gotta say thanks. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
You know,
man.
I was gonna say that it's kind of a drag. I mean, it's a drag to be at the end anytime like this, but I mostly feel bad for Ben because he's a young guy and he's got to go the rest of his career never doing anything as awesome as this has been. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ben. It's a bummer.
Sorry, Ben. This is your peak right now. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
It's always great. Look at me, Aaron. I am having such technical difficulties today.
This is Guz at 1 frame per second, you guys.
If you can, everyone, try to capture a good screenshot of me making a funny face and then share it with social media. That'll be fun.
That's good. All right, but yes, seriously though, thank you, Ben. I don't know about you guys, but it has been awesome getting to kick this off with live music, and especially with just such a talented musician as Ben Hammond. So I really do want to say, just personally, thank you, Ben. This has been great to have you, and maybe we'll see if everybody agrees with me. Maybe we'll try to get Ben involved in some future events we do.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to see Ben live.
That would be good.
Yeah, I'm going to turn off my video because it's distracting to see myself at 1 frame a second. Is that okay, Aaron?
I guess so, but yeah. I mean, we got to do what we got to do, right? And I guess okay. It's distracting too to have a disenchanted voice. So let me see what I have down here for a sec. Yeah.
Remember when we hired that stand-in that one time for me?
All right. I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to make do with what we got to do. So. Go ahead. You want to kick this off?
Hey, welcome everyone to SketchUp Fireside Chat Series. We're your host, Aaron Dietzen and the Sock. And if you're new to the series, welcome to week 8 and the conclusion of the first season of our SketchUp virtual community experience. That's both fun and informative. If you're returning, welcome around the fire for one last time. And yeah, and then that feels good. Nice and warm. Great.
You're a ham. Today we have an amazing guest. Liam Keating's here, and if you guys haven't seen his work, you'll get a chance to see it today. Liam does some awesome stuff with just like sci-fi design, spaceships, cars, fast cars, rocket men, robots. So there's the tie. So it's going to be awesome. Glad you're all here.
That's right. And as you know by now, the format of the show is not your typical webinar. The presentation will begin in about half an hour. So if you're busy, you can come back and see us then. As a reminder, today's episode will feature an interview, a presentation, and then a community Q&A. The episode's about an hour and a half. So pour yourself a cup of coffee and get comfortable.
All right. And I just want to mention, if you are having any issues with video or audio, not Guz's video, that's just a thing. Do click down below where it says get audio video help, and you can turn on compatibility mode, which will buffer your video stream. So just make it a little bit smoother. I also want to say, I know where we're at. This is for everybody in America. I know it's everybody's waiting patiently for results, but I am going to ask that we don't talk politics in the chat. Leave it, let it go for an hour and a half. We're not even going to worry about that. And we're just going to be here, have SketchUp and have some fun.
That's right. That's right. So if Sock Guz is getting on your nerves, Aaron, you can send him to go clean the broom closet again. So let's get into this housekeeping. This is an interactive experience. So how can you participate? If you'll look down below, you'll see a Q&A. It says ask a question. Currently, there's 2 questions in there. And if you have a question of your own, go ahead and include it. And if you see a question in there that you like and you want to bubble it up, just give it a little upvote, and those questions will be asked at the end of the show. A recording will be available on this very page and just a few minutes after the show is over. So if you feel like you've missed anything, if you want to come back and watch it again, just come right back here. Lastly, we have a poll. You see where it says poll and there's a red number 1. Show them where, Aaron.
That's right down there.
Yes, that's right. Click on polls and then we'll see what today's poll is.
All right. Let's take a look. So today's poll, we're asking you guys, this is very topical. How many Fireside chats have you been to? This is your first one? If so, you can just watch the reruns. They're just as good, not live, I guess. But how many have you been to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or all 7? How many have you been to, Guz?
At least a handful of them.
Yeah, I remember at least 3 or 4 of them.
So yeah, I've actually been to 7, and on the 8th one, I have a statement. So. Just to explain, I had a Chrome update recently, and since then, Chrome has been using up over 200% of my CPU, and so
it's a demanding thing right there.
Yeah. Luckily, it's right here at the last episode. I'm looking at the poll, Aaron. Are you looking at it? It is.
This is awesome. I mean. So we're right around 40% of attendees have actually been to all of the episodes. That is so cool. So that's awesome, you guys.
That's right. And we have a handful of folks. This is their first one. Welcome around the fire.
That's also awesome.
This is a bit unusual if this is your first one because I'm normally not a sock, but not today I am. So well.
Yeah, we like to mix it up. We like to keep it fresh, you know. Hey, what if we do the whole thing and you can't see one of the hosts? That'll be fun. Who does that? You know, we're just keeping it original.
That's right. Nice and fresh.
So that's cool. Thank you. Everybody who's here for your first time, thanks for joining us. This is going to be a great one. If you've been here for all 8, way to go. That's awesome. Anywhere in between, well, you're all awesome. Good job, guys. Thanks for coming. So we're going to do something today. We're going to give away something at the end of Liam Keating's presentation. So in a few minutes here, we're going to bring Liam up on stage. We're going to talk to him a little bit, and then he's going to give a presentation on his illustration and his artwork and his work. Pay close attention. He's going to drop a lot of facts for you. And at the end, he's going to ask a trivia question about his presentation. Whoever answers in the chat first is going to get a free print or poster from his website. So if you click down below right now, you have a link right now to the free print from Liam's store. If you click on that, you can actually see the first 2 tabs, the posters or the prints. You'll get a free one of those ordered from his store and sent to you if you are able to pay attention and get that.
He's got great stuff. It's going to look great on your wall, believe me.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
Yeah. Super.
All right.
So I guess it's time to do our SketchUp community shout out. What do you think?
That's right. All right. So a community shout out is when we take a few minutes to recognize you guys, the community, the people who make SketchUp what it is, and see, what you're doing with SketchUp, that sort of thing. So we've done some Instagram, we've done extensions, we've done, what else have we done? Oh, 3D Warehouse. Today is something totally different. So today we're going to take a look at a free ebook. This is available from Mindsight Studios, Dale Martin's. It's called 10 SketchUp Masters Reveal the 9 Worst Beginner Mistakes That Kill Your Productivity. It took me a second. On the screen that I'm actually looking at this slide on, it's reversed. So it tripped me up for a second, but I got it. This is awesome. And this is cool because it's a whole bunch of people who know SketchUp. We got Justin, Geis, Dave, Daniel, up at the top is Matt and some other guys. And it's just great information. I mean, this is what you should and shouldn't do if you want to get the best you can possibly get at SketchUp. We got linked to videos in here, examples. It's great and it's free. You can actually click down below and go to Mindsight Studios, sign up, and get a free copy of this ebook and check it out. It's well worth it.
Oh, man. It's like, listen, everyone's a winner today, right? Like you get an ebook, you get an ebook. Yeah. You know what that is, Aaron?
That is.
You get an ebook. Nice. Speaking of awesome, it's not awesome technical difficulties, but you know who is awesome? Our Fireside Chat SketchUppers who have joined us here tonight. If you wouldn't mind, do me a favor because we're curious. In the comments, let us know which episode was your favorite. Which one really got your motor running, got you excited? Which one did you leave and say, man, I'm going to watch that again and again? I'm just curious. I can't pick just one, Aaron.
That's true. But I'm going to put that out there. I want to force you guys, put the guest you liked the best in there. And this is absolutely a competition. We're playing them all against each other. No, I know it's easy to say they were all great. Liam's favorite is this one, so that's good to hear.
Oh, yeah.
You can vote for Liam. That is absolutely true.
Yeah, and we talked about so many cool things. We did architecture, interior design, we did art, we did movies, we did just so many cool guests, so many knowledgeable folks, and our audience sitting around the fire with us was privy to all of that great content.
Yeah, and this is just a fun way to get to hang out with you guys. I mean, just going back to the beginning, we're doing this because we couldn't get together for base camp, which is the highlight of my every 2 years. So it's the highlight of my even years. And we couldn't do this, so we got together this way. And really, we could have just released some videos or something like that, but it's you guys hanging out with us that made these into awesome events rather than just, video interviews, which would have been good, but not awesome.
Yeah. And this is fun. Yeah, I love the social and the interactive aspect of what we're doing here around the fire. It's no replacement for all of us getting together and hanging out, dancing until the sun comes up. But it's it's better than nothing, right, Aaron?
Yeah, that's right. This is way better than just not having base camp. So
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So that's enough of us talking about how awesome you guys are. Let's talk about how awesome our guest is. So let's bring him on up. So this is a guy who is an illustrator. He is an amazing SketchUp modeler. He's just really a nice guy and fun guy to talk to. So we're going to bring up Mr. Liam Keating.
Yeah. Come on up, Liam.
Come on up, Liam.
Yeah.
He's walking around the side of the stage.
Don't trip.
Here he comes. Hey, Liam.
Yeah.
Hey. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you, which is one over on Guz.
Ooh.
That was a good save with the sock puppet there.
Yeah. It's called contingency plans.
Much more handsome and talented, I have to say.
Oh, yeah, but
so just some warning. About 10 minutes ago, I got the hiccups.
A whole different kind of technical difficulty.
That lines up. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. This is good. I want to ask a question to start with right off the bat here. It's a clarifying statement. You do work for Volvo, but it's not the Volvo that you would get a car from.
No, it's the better one. You'd get a truck or a boat, maybe.
Perfect. So
We'll get to that later.
So we're not going to ask any questions about the new Volvo or anything like that because that has nothing to do with you.
No.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, a disembodied Guz will ask you a question. So let me ask this, Liam. You've lived in Sweden for a few years now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If I were to go visit, well, like what's a dish? What's a Swedish dish that you would recommend I get?
A Swedish dish or one that I would eat personally.
Yeah. Like what would you eat? You're like, yeah, Guz, you're here. You have to eat this.
Well, I would go for the classic meatballs, but obviously we've got the fermented herring and the other 1,000 assortments of herring. But
so it's a big herring place, is what you're saying.
Place.
Well, as long as we're on the topic of meatballs, here's a follow-up. Ready? So is horse an ingredient in meatballs at IKEA in Sweden, or is just in the U.S.?
I think in Europe it's okay to eat horses, isn't it?
It was a big issue here in the States. They had to pull the meatballs.
I don't know. I can't comment.
No comment.
Too close for comfort. Gotham is a small town.
Let's derail back a different way. So, you have actually, because of COVID, you haven't been modeling in SketchUp a whole lot for work, but you were there at the beginning, back when we were planning Basecamp.
Yeah.
So I just gotta ask, like, you would work on SketchUp to model for work, and then you'd go home and work on these big, elaborate SketchUp models for fun. Like, is that some sort of an imbalance, or what causes you to sketch up that much?
Well, I think I was quite lucky, and we'll get into it later. But I didn't used to work in 3D. It was my hobby, so it's something I just did for fun. And then it was a hobby for over 10 years, and then finally I got a job in 3D. So now I'm trapped. Everything is a hobby.
Hey, that's a dream, right? That's perfect.
As long as my boss isn't watching and can trick me into some sort of work loop where I just have to work forever.
Hobby, huh?
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, speaking of hobbies, right? Like, so for some reason, Sweden, that area produces like some of the most subscribed to YouTube channels, right? So there's a guy there named Rumi Official with like over 7 million or about 7 million. There's a guy named PewDiePie. I don't know if you heard of him. Yeah. He has 107 million subscribers, right? So, Liam, if you started a YouTube channel, what would your millions of subscribers be tuning into? What would they be watching? And then also, what would your YouTube name be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it would have to be Robot Dinosaur, only because that's obviously the name of my website, because I went to the pub a long time ago and I woke up the next day with that URL. It's very expensive. So I have to justify everything I do by the stupid robots versus dinosaurs.
Nice. Okay. I will subscribe when you start that YouTube channel up. I will subscribe.
Got it.
All right. So I had one last question, and this is, so I apologize if you guys have not seen a whole lot of Liam's work, but the stuff you put out is, I mean, they are big, detailed models. Was that an intention? Did you go like, I'm going to see how big and detailed I could make this space station? Or is that something that just happened? And is maintaining, the usability of those models, is that part of your process? Is that something you're very conscious of as you model?
I think it started off because I wasn't very good. So I used to copy and paste everything. It would look a lot more exciting than it was. And over the years, especially with learning other tools, I'm a lot more sort of conscious with the polygons. But most of the stuff that we see today is just for 2D illustration. So there's no limit, really. If you can open it on the computer, it's no problem. Obviously, in work, if I have to do animation or VR, then that's a different matter. You have to be quite conscious. But for this stuff, just go crazy. Robots, spaceships, copy and paste.
And there's a reminder, if you haven't seen Liam's work yet, then click on that little green button down below that says view Liam's art portfolio and get a taste of the awesomeness.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, so I did have one more question, and this is just me getting to know you, Liam. Like, what is your most used emoji?
Ooh. The sort of sideways smiley face with the tears.
Okay, that's good. That says a lot about you as a person.
I think it fills every sort of scenario. It can be sad, or it could be happy, or it could be funny.
I like it. Yeah,
that's a good answer.
Yeah. Also, I'm too old. I miss the whole emoji thing. The way people now, they can just talk in emojis. I bypass that, so I'm quite old school.
Remember when emojis were just actually your face?
Yeah, like you had to type.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I don't know, Aaron. You have more questions?
No, I just wanted to, because a couple people have called this out, and I mentioned this when we did our rehearsal earlier this week. But those are original animation cells from Akira, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my friend Marvin, actually, I taught him SketchUp over this summer while we were on furlough from Volvo. And this was my reward to be able to buy some Akira cells from him.
That's awesome.
So that's really nice. So they come with the original sketch, obviously, that was done with annotations and notes, and then there's a separate painted acetate on top. So really nice.
Very cool.
So that's the one part of the wall that doesn't get any sun to protect it.
That's good. Keep it pristine. Because up till now, you've been keeping them in a box in a safe somewhere, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, Aaron, I'm noticing a theme. This like futuristic theme. It makes me think we should probably get into game time. Yeah. So today, Liam, we are going to ask you some questions. We're going to ask you to identify the following spacecraft.
All right. Are you ready? And you guys in the chat can play along too.
I can see the chat, so I could be cheating.
Well, that's true. Okay. So you guys can throw Liam by typing in the wrong thing. That's the trick. All right. Let's see if we can trade him. All right. So I'm gonna flip over and throw some spaceships up, and you throw out what the spaceship is and where it's from. Ready? Here we go. Here's number one. Go.
Enterprise from Star Trek.
Yes.
So that is an easy one. So we're starting off small. We're crawling before we run. So all right. Spaceship number, or I should say conveyance. But yeah, number two.
It's a spaceship. This counts.
Space Shuttle Discovery.
That's right. Yeah, it does say it on the side. That's kind of that's a freebie too.
I think this one's tougher. The next one is tougher.
All right, a little tougher. Here we go. Ready?
Vostante.
Yes.
Yes. From The Expanse.
The Expanse. That's right. That's
your favorite?
Still one of my well, almost. It's one of my favorite spaceships. I just like that they built it with science in mind, and the decks are stacked vertically against thrust. I think that part's cool. All right, here we go. Number 4 is
SpaceX.
That's right. The Falcon 9 from SpaceX.
Good.
Some of these are like real space things in real life.
That thing looks like a probe that an alien once gave me, but
it does. I should probably get that off the screen so we can get flagged as not safe for work. Okay.
Millennium Falcon.
That's right. So yeah, I like the Rocinante, but come on, the Falcon. It's hard to. Yeah. All right.
This is one of my favorites.
That's right. All right. Number 6 is
Power loader, of course.
That's right. What's the actual name, Guz? I forget.
This is the P5000 power loader from Mercedes-Benz. I don't know actually if the Mercedes made it, but that'd be cool.
Or from Aliens. That's it. Yeah. Awesome. You're doing great so far. All right. So we're gonna keep moving forward. Here's the next one.
The space station.
That's right.
International
Space Station. This is one of the few that is an actual real image of a real thing in space. That's why it looks so crappy.
Not rendered in SketchUp.
Yeah,
all right. Last question.
All right. Last one is
Serenity.
Bing!
So what did I win?
You get to present for the next half hour. That's what you want.
You win +1 to your geek cred. All your friends are now a little more envious.
Or less.
Always. All right.
Good.
Yeah. Go for it, Guz.
Okay, let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the presentation. So again, if you have a question, and then and we're going to clarify here, a question for our guest, Liam Keating, put it down below where it says ask a question. Currently, there's 5 questions in there. Let's get it up to 10. Or if not, if you see a question in there that you've already want to ask, just upvote it, and we'll be sure to ask it here before the show's up. And the next thing we want to bring up is the Fireside Lounge. So when we're done with the presentation and we're done with the show, we're going to head over to the Fireside Lounge. There will be a link there. And Liam will be available to answer questions maybe that didn't get asked during the event. So I think that's it.
That's right. Yeah. So with that, we will hand it over to you, Liam, and do your presentation, and we'll come back and ask some questions as soon as we're done. This is going to be good.
Sure. Let's go for it.
All right, it's all you, buddy.
Here we go. So, thanks for having me, guys. And it's a nice privilege to be the last one of this set. Because we couldn't get to Canada this year, which is a big shame, but it's really great that we've been able to have these talks online, and there's been some great stuff over the month. So I'm a designer and illustrator based in Gothenburg in Sweden. So I used to work in London for 5 or 6 years in publishing, but in 2016 I went freelance with illustration, working for lots of different clients in fashion, technology, architecture. And I now work as a visualization designer for Volvo Group. Here's some pictures. So you might have seen my work before on Instagram and on the SketchUp site. And for the last several years, I've been doing a lot of SketchUp and Keyshot and Photoshop with digital painting on Wacom.
That's so cool. If that was an actual model, I would have built it.
Yeah, I tried to 3D print it. It didn't work.
Oh.
It's harder than you think, apparently.
There it is.
So yeah, I've always played around with SketchUp and rendering and different tools and animation. So these are examples of SketchUp and Keyshot. And then over the summer, I got a new job at Volvo, where I moved from being a graphic designer to visualization full-time. So I took a Blender course over the summer and learned how to use that. So over the past couple of months, you might have seen some things that I've done in Blender, so I can try and keep up with my very talented colleagues in work. But for today, we're mainly going to look at SketchUp and how to use it for sort of more traditional illustration techniques without using rendering engines or plugins. So, why robots and sci-fi and why did we just do a quiz about spaceships? So when I was young, I used to be fascinated with illustration. Both my parents encouraged me to draw. I used to get me these really cool cross-section books that I think are kind of global. So I think a lot of people will have seen these before.
I love those.
But these are always my favourite books. And for a long time, couldn't even contemplate how you would get around creating anything like this. Especially because this is all hand-drafted without CAD. I used to spend hours with these cross-sections and technical things. And obviously, with the Star Wars films, they brought out the sort of technical manuals. They were very cool, had a big influence on me. And then also through my grandmother and my uncles and cousins, grew up on sort of the old school Jerry Anderson, Thunderbirds, Fireball. I'm sure you remember those. I think some people who won't know about this might just think this is Team America.
It still creeps me out. It's still creepy to me.
Yeah, but very good and very cool. And then when I was quite young, my parents bought me a video recorder, which I learned to program and set about taping all of the classics, of course.
Those are classics.
Secretly watching them, and it's great. I love them. So a big influence on these types of films, obviously, science fiction and the effects, and then Lego, of course. So before computers, when it was just a pencil and paper, and if you wanted to put something together, you had to build it. And then over the years, when I got a bit older, started doing research on who these designers were behind the films. And that exposed me to a lot of the great sci-fi iconic artists where I'd be able to get books from the library. And when I was older, buy some. So Chris Foss, Rolf from Star Wars, Ron Cobb, who sadly passed away this year or the year before, from Alien, Back to the Future, and then Sid Mead, who was always one of my favourites. I think my dad showed me Blade Runner when I was a kid, and I didn't have a clue what was happening, but it looked great, made a big impression. So I rewatched it many times to finally sort of get that plot. And then as sort of a side step, I think I'd been in the Volvo office for just a few weeks. One of the managers called me into a meeting room because he knew that I like sci-fi and illustration, and showed me this series of 8 framed paintings on the wall, and asked me, who do I think did these? And I said, well, obviously it can't be, but they look exactly like it's something Sid Mead would do. And then I found out that actually Sid Mead was in Gothenburg in the 80s, and worked in the same studio that I work in now, doing concept designs for trucks. And really cool. And just the year before he died, I managed to finally get in touch with him and have some correspondence where I could ask him about his time in Gothenburg, which he remembered, and even remembered working on some sort of secret prototype sci-fi bubble car, of which I've not been able to get any more information from that.
That is awesome.
One day I'll find that.
Wow.
So this number might not be entirely accurate, but within, I think, at least 50 days.
And to clarify, that's the number of days in 2020.
Yeah. left to go.
Oh no.
So I started with SketchUp when I was in college. One of my friends was doing interior design, and all I knew was Photoshop. And so I'm working with this crazy thing where you could build something in 3D. So I quickly got hold of it. And this was one of my first models. Although it looks like it might have been done by a child. I think I was 17 at this point. So I was starting quite late.
Still better than me.
It's never too late.
And I was just playing around with it. I wasn't used to 3D. I didn't really have a concept of geometry or how things work. But I was trying to incorporate it into my illustration and graphic design. I got a bit older, obviously, when I was in university. For my first project, I was going to somehow make a full feature-length Halo or Aliens animation. It never got further than this. I didn't do very well in that module. But it was about this time that for my 18th birthday, I got a Wacom tablet from my parents. And I couldn't afford a rendering computer. You didn't really have those then, or the software. So I started to learn how to paint over 3D models in Photoshop. So here's an example of one of the first experiments with painting in Photoshop instead of rendering. And then it was really when Avatar came out. However, you think about the film, I'm a big fan of James Cameron, and the designs I thought were really cool. So I think in 2009-10, I set myself a project to try and learn how to model a bit better. I picked the helicopters from the movie because they're very cool. And then I began, as the months went on, and a lot of hit and miss, and a lot of help from the SketchUp community giving me tips. It went on over the months and the months, but I wasn't quite there. But I kept going, learned new things. This is where I started to work with plugins, with subdivision. And then by the end of the year, or a little later, I finally could sort of find my way around making these more organic shapes in SketchUp.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so I was quite happy with that.
Yeah.
And then this year, interestingly, through some mutual contacts, I managed to get acquainted with Ty Rubin, who is the art director at Industrial Light and Magic, and I think with Weta. And he posted some of his work, and it turns out that the helicopters for Avatar were designed in SketchUp by him, years ago in 2006. So he showed me. So what had inspired me to learn, little did I know, it's what the concept teams were using then anyway.
Wow.
So that was really cool. I kind of went full circle. And then in 2010, I think that's when I came to the US for the first time ever to go to SketchUp Base Camp in 2010, with the help of my parents and from my tiny motel on the edge of town, which was a very long walk from your office. I got my first commission from Wired magazine. The iPad had just been launched, or was about to be, and Apple had asked Wired to make an app that would be on the iPad for launch. And they wanted a submarine that could be interactive. So this is the first thing I ever did that I got money for. But I still couldn't render, and had to get my friend, who we knew had a gaming PC, to use a trial version of something to get a render, which didn't work. So in the end, I had to paint it in Photoshop. I managed to get away with it. They never knew, so that's okay.
Nice.
And then I think just a few months later, they hired me. I went down to London and I started not doing 3D anymore. That just became my hobby. And for the next 6 years, worked in advertising and publishing over the different titles for the company, so Vogue and Vanity Fair. And that's where I was for 6 years, doing something completely different. I was really lucky to be working in Wired and got exposed to loads of cool sort of technology that you wouldn't normally see. And I got to use VR for the first time, an event that we had when it was still pre-release. And then I kind of knew that this is what I really wanted to do somehow. And the team at Wired were always very nice to me. So the art director, creative director, Paul and Ben would sort of, and Andrew would give me illustrations to do now and again in SketchUp. If there was a space on a page or there was anything to fill in. So over those 6 years, I sort of got to keep my foot in a little bit. I keep learning new things. But then in about 2016, I thought it was time to, if I'm going to do this, I should do it now. So without thinking, moved to Sweden without a national security number. And that's not what you're supposed to do. So I had a year of looking for jobs, but it gave me a great time for practice. So I had a whole year to sort of develop my skills, learn new things. Did what most people do when they use SketchUp and go freelance and start working with architecture and architectural visualization. And one thing that I found from doing this work was that people seem to value the more hand-drawn illustration style rather than the hardcore, very clean renders. So I had a really great time over that year, working with different clients, different people, different types of jobs. And with my old colleagues at Wired, was able to work with them and Microsoft on an animation infographic for the Renault Formula One team. So this was done in SketchUp. The car pulls apart on the website. You can move things, and that was really great. And that gave me sort of a year's worth of portfolio. Doing different illustrations for magazines using 3D rendering, SketchUp, and then that led me to Volvo. So that was not cars, so it's trucks, robot trucks, big trucks, construction vehicles, autonomous construction vehicles, bigger construction vehicles. So yeah, a bit confusingly, we have the same logo, so it's often that people confuse it. And depending on what the conversation is, I don't always correct them. Oh, you did such a great job on that car. So, thanks. It's easier.
When they complain is when you're actually like, oh, that's not us.
No. So yeah, the style that I do is kind of, it's not something unique to SketchUp, it's just SketchUp makes it a lot easier. This is a guy called Calder Moore who I follow. So I think he's used Maya here and Arnold, which is the Autodesk render. That's got a really cool toon shader, but it's not the easiest thing to set up. You still have to do a lot of work. You have to work with the nodes and the different maps, but it still gives a great result. And obviously in Blender, it's the same. You can get similar results, but you have to do a lot of work with nodes and lots of different lighting and many images and compile them. And also lots of plugins, which is something I try and avoid when possible. So this is car. How do I pronounce this? Come on, this is where you have to chip in.
Carlos, or is it Sosa? Yeah, so I don't know. Carlos.
Carollos.
Carollos. Sosa.
Anyway,
Yeah,
it's very good.
it looks like a milkman from the future.
Yeah, it's also possible that I did misspell Carlos. We'll check that later. But I'm a big fan of his. And yeah, so you can do it in different softwares, but I've always kind of done this toon stuff in SketchUp because it's so quick. Yeah, someone's corrected me. It is Carlos. So
Okay.
forget Leo, just to give him some credit.
Thanks, Raphael.
Yeah, so SketchUp has always been really quick for me to sort of iterate and make quick concept designs. It's something I put together just in a few days, going through different iterations, getting a bit more advanced and checking things, and then putting together a final sort of painting.
I just want to shout this out because one of the things I've always appreciated about your work, one of the things you do is you tie it back to reality. So you'll do things like you had that space freighter with the IKEA logo on the side, I remember, and this having Volvo on the front. I think that's cool because it adds like that level of, I don't know, almost believability to these fantastic vehicles you create.
Yeah.
And even the Robo Milkman had a mask on, which is very apropos.
I think he's actually called a COVID robot.
Okay.
A social distancing robot. But yeah, I was trying to ground things in reality. I spend a lot of time on boring NASA and science websites, learning how things work and how big they should be and why they should be there. So this is a model from SketchUp that I've rendered in Keyshot. But then with the same model, just direct from SketchUp, you can get a really cool illustrative effect, especially with the shadows.
If this were in a movie trailer, I would watch the movie.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
And then sort of with traditional rendering, you normally just get this type of look. You can make the shadows a bit darker or lighter, but you don't really get the hard shadows that you can get direct from SketchUp. And then when you're making models for illustration, you can be a lot more messier than you can in work. For example, so I only need to model things that will be seen by the camera, so everything is empty. There's a lot of bad geometry. And before, Aaron, you asked, you make things that are so complicated. But I think this sort of section here and sort of one beam then is multiplied hundreds of times.
It's funny. I don't think anybody else has come on and showed a model and bragged about it being messy before you. You were the first one to do that.
And then, especially for these fun projects, you can find a lot of things on the internet. So these domes I think they're the Disney Epcot sphere from Disneyland. But it's very quick. And a lot of copy and pasting and moving around. And then, that's later. And then here, obviously, I've just exported these things into SketchUp almost direct. And my layers are as messy as my models. I'd practice this, but I've forgotten where everything is.
That's evidence of a creative mind. That's all we're seeing right there.
So in SketchUp, I've just exported the line art, and then I won't turn the shadows on because I'm not going to risk crashing the computer midway through. And then I just export the shadows, and it comes in, and it just gives a really nice comic book style. I can paint things in, like windows, paint in some pipes and tubes, and then you have a really quick animation. So I think I saw someone ask before how long does it take to put something together, but this is probably maybe a day or two. If you really drill down, not that much has been built. It's just a lot of things have been copied and pasted, and then you can do fun things like little animations.
Look at that.
If I had to do this from scratch in Illustrator, it'd take me months.
Wow.
It allows me to really quickly put something together that traditionally would take a long time.
That's awesome.
So these are just some examples of not doing any rendering and just taking the raw images from SketchUp. So just 2 PNGs, one for the line work and then one for shadows, and then adding in backgrounds usually in Photoshop.
I do love that one. That is just, it's amazing.
Yeah, so I have to apologize in advance. I would put these things on the shop, but then they tell me that I will get sued. So I guess it's fair enough.
Yeah.
So you can really quickly just get these really cool comic book styles. So in work, if I have to do animation, I usually do the storyboards in SketchUp with this black and white style, and maybe just add in some color for things that you need to highlight.
Michael was asking about the animation piece with the propellers, and was wondering, like, where were you doing the animation keyframes in?
So that was just Photoshop.
Okay, just Photoshop. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to do basic animation, you can do that in Photoshop, no problem.
Nice.
It has keyframe. And the propellers are just image exports from SketchUp, where I've just rotated the propeller sort of 5 degrees, taken a screenshot, then done it again.
Cool.
And then just have them going around. So it's quite easy. You can get something done in a few hours. So I was saying in work, I'll often use this as a way to do storyboards for animations, because you can bring in 3D models from other places, and then you can quickly give an illustrative style. And then in Photoshop, you can start playing with some of the tones and adding in subtle colors to give highlights. And then if you want to go even further in Photoshop, even adding in just 3 or 4 tones gives you, really cool comic book style stuff.
I got a question for you, Liam. As you go through here, I mean, the work you're showing, none of it's like, well, I mean, you're taking it all to like a finished product. How often do you start into something and go, that's not going to work, or do you just push through and make everything work? I mean, these all seem like quite a bit of investment in time and energy.
It depends. I think it wasn't. We'll get to it in a minute, but it's not that often that I do something from scratch without bringing extra things in that I found online. So sort of that NASA rover, it's just a fun sketch that I'll do in one day, I guess, or a long day. There's other things that I'll do from scratch that could take 3 weeks or a month, and lots of trial and error. But I was going through a phase where I was trying to do one illustration a week, and usually spending about 2 or 3 evenings on it. Yeah, and I think I've just seen in the chat, I thought hello looked cool in Korean, but learned later that you only use that hello if you are answering the phone.
Maybe he's got an earpiece in. Hello?
Yeah. He is a robot, maybe that's all he knows.
Yeah, could be.
And yeah, so these really simple exports can give really nice sort of contrasting illustration. It's one of the rare examples of when I'll do something that's real and not a spaceship.
Oh, reality is so boring.
Yeah, a bird count a spaceship.
And this was for a concert house in Gothenburg, where I live. But yeah, so it's just a case of me mixing. So if you look now at this image, you'll notice that all of these parts here are also on that flying helicopter thing. I've just reused it. And it's the same pipes. So I have a library that I built up over the years, and I just kit bash things together. I think the only thing that I had to build for this was the sort of NASA type lifts that lift up, and then I just made one of them, copied and pasted it 8 times. So something like this again, you can do in a day. But if I was using Illustrator,
you can do in a day. Just clarify that.
This
is something that I can do in a day.
I can do it in a day because I've done a lot of days, and then I reused a lot of parts.
Robert's saying he likes the posterized style, and I was going to say it looks like straight out of a graphic novel that I would read.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really good, and especially if you're doing comic book art, it's really good for pre-visualization. If you want to do scenes and play with lighting before you take it into Illustrator or somewhere else and want to paint it up. This is in the wrong place, so we will skip past this. So here's an example of something that's come straight out of SketchUp. So here there's some rendering going on here. That's a later topic, so we'll come back to this. But this is direct out of SketchUp, just 2 images, one for the line work, then one for the shadows. And then in Photoshop, I can just paint in some colors really quickly and get this really cool robot, Thomas the Tank. I think, does he have a different name in America?
No,
No.
that's it.
Okay, must be somewhere else. So this is really quick to do. So you get a really nice comic book style, and then in Photoshop you can do some really cool inking. And usually this is quite difficult, and one thing that I always struggled with just drawing freehand is getting the perspective right, and with 3D you can sort of cheat and skip ahead. So here we have an example where there's no rendering, but everything is done in Photoshop. So just gradients and layers and masks. So you don't have to render. You can do quick concept things with photographs and putting things together from a very simple model.
Hey, Liam, just a heads up. We've got about 10 minutes left.
All right, time to go quick. So I've done lots of things for magazines where they've asked for an illustration. This was a server farm for a company in Africa. But I can do it in 3D in 10% of the time and still give them the results that they're expecting from an illustration. So I'll just go a bit faster. Tell me if you want me to stop. So these are just some examples of Photoshop and SketchUp with no rendering. So here's an example of something that most people think that has been done in Illustrator. and how I would use SketchUp to do that a lot quicker. So you can have a very sort of simple model. Most people don't know that in the shadow settings in SketchUp, if you pull it straight over, you can get a fully flat color, which in Photoshop is great for selecting objects. And then fingers crossed, yeah. And then you can get really nice dark shadows. I've got this really dodgy mannequin. So I wanted them hanging out of the car backwards, and I wasn't sure how you would do that, but you can.
Hey, real quick, one of these SketchUp models, I know the question's come out a couple times. Can you go up to your model info and look at the statistics on this file? Oh, you got it all grouped though, yeah.
I will explode it after the presentation, and I'll.
Don't worry about it. I was just curious, but you model right. You got everything in groups. So that top level is just like one group.
Yeah. And that just means in Photoshop then. I don't want this. So I can really quickly plan an illustration, so I can bring in different parts of the vehicle. In this case, I can do some sketching. And then because it's a 3D model, I can make changes. So here's the model colored, but then, you know, I want a version where he's coming out of the car. So I can go back into the model, I can open the door, I can take the exports again. I can add in characters in Photoshop, or in this case I did this in Illustrator. And then I can go and open the other door and paint that and put in another character. And then just with a few details, can paint it up really quick. So I just do all this on the Wacom or the iPad.
I would wear that shirt so hard.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to sell this, they tell me. So
that was a double copyright infringement.
Yeah, or triple, because I've got some secret mags. So
Nice.
How are we doing for time?
Yeah, so we still got about 7 minutes.
Okay. So obviously using a computer. I was using a Mac for many years until I had to do animation and just realized that was a dead end. So I've been a PC user for quite a while now. And in work, I'm very lucky because I get to work with Wacom, and they've been fantastic in letting us try out all of these different tablets. And they really are great for sketching. And the best is the Mobile Studio, but it's very expensive. So a couple of years ago, I forked out for an iPad, and I was quite skeptical, but I've never looked back since. I think so here's something in SketchUp that I've exported very rough, and then I've been able to paint over in Procreate to get an idea of what materials I'm going to use, and then rendered it later. So this is an example of something that I've done from scratch that has taken a long time.
So sweet.
That is awesome.
And then the good thing about SketchUp, you can get a raw output like this. And then on the iPad, I can be on the bus. Here's me going somewhere. And Sweden is a very safe country, so I can sketch on the bus. It's no problem. It's great. And on the iPad, can get these really nice results really quickly. So now that it's winter and I'll be getting the tram a lot, it's a really good sort of relaxing thing to be able to sketch. And then we won't have time for this, but to show the last example. But one other thing that I often do is just add in a simple clay render from Keyshot or from Blender, and add that between the shadow and the color. And you get this really cool effect that makes a big difference to the illustrations. So I'm using the iPad Pro, Dave, just for the comments. So adding in the extra depth with just one pass makes a really big difference sometimes. So I often do that if I want to get a less cartoony, more rounded shadow.
Wow.
And then mixing that with the hard shadows of SketchUp, and then the sort of clay render shadows gives really nice contrast.
Mm-hmm. Robert was asking what app you were using on the iPad.
Procreate.
Procreate, okay.
Yeah, so I've had Photoshop for quite a while with the Adobe team, and I think it's great, but if you're using a pen to paint, nothing's come close to Procreate yet.
Okay.
And I think it's only $10 or €10. It's definitely worth picking up if you've got the pencil. So here's kind of breakdown of what this is coming out of SketchUp on the right, and how it's ending up in Photoshop on the left. So I usually break up the line work and the shadows. And then in SketchUp, if I know I'm going to want to paint certain areas, I will pick those out separately. Usually by what here says color select, I basically just color everything a different color. So I can just select it later with the magic wand tool. So these are the layers for this image. So it's just 10 layers in Photoshop. And you can really quickly just put something together. Which is really fun. And then obviously sometimes I get carried away and you get into the hundreds of layers. But what can you do?
Totally worth it.
And there we go.
That was awesome.
Almost to the minute.
Oh man, look, I'm animated again. You fixed me, Liam. Okay. That was amazing.
That was super cool. We do have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So the first question, you kind of answered this, but I'll just throw it out there again. Dave was asking how many hours you spend developing one of these projects.
Oh, it depends. Some maybe just 2 or 3 afternoons, hours. Afternoons. Yeah. And some, can be months. I think the Amazon robot that I showed before was a concept from a really good artist called Jason Hazelroth, who also uses SketchUp. So I saw one of his pictures and wanted to try it. And I think that was about 3 months.
Wow.
Some things can just be a few days. Oh, man. Okay, so here's a follow-up question. Prez asked, what books would you suggest that discuss setting up a freelance studio in today's market for 3D? So if someone wants to get into freelancing, is there any resources you might recommend?
That's a tough one. I mean, I've only done it with moderate success in between jobs, and I guess it depends on what country you're in. It's difficult. I think I've never really wanted to be a freelancer. I much prefer working with people in an office, but I've always found, at least just from my limited knowledge, that trying to get things face to face is much easier with big success. I know lots of people who only work online and they seem to like that. Whereas I've always had the opposite. I've always struggled to sort of find work online and pitch to people as an illustrator. Whereas if I can just go down the street or go into town with the portfolio, it's not a problem to get them on board. So I think face-to-face has always been a winner for me.
Nice. And we skipped over this, and this is my fault. This is totally on me. We want to get your trivia question, so we can see who can win a prize here. So go ahead, fire that out there, and we'll watch for who comes up first in the chat.
Yep. So, which famous designer worked in my studio in Gothenburg?
All right. Do you guys remember who it was? First one to come up wins a print or... Oh, Sarah. Sarah's got it. Did me correct. Good job. Good job, Keating. You have just won a print or poster of your choosing from Liam's store. So, yeah, that was it. Good job.
Congratulations. Yeah. Oh, man.
All right. So we have time for a couple more extensions. Sarah, go ahead and email Maria, and she'll get you set up. And anybody else who wanted one but didn't win that, you can go also to Liam's website, Robots versus Dinosaurs, and purchase your own from his store. And there's some awesome stuff. The copyrighted stuff's not there, so it's all original, which I would argue makes it even better. So, all right, so a couple more questions we got time for. One question, and I usually ask this too, I didn't, but are there specific extensions you find yourself using a lot in SketchUp?
I'm just loading SketchUp, so I might just present very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can.
The real stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over these 3 screens. Share screen.
So Liam, any thoughts to taking your complex drawings and making some of those the books that you used to like as a kid, where you've got everything spliced up and showing the details?
That's the master plan.
Nice.
Think of a good non-copyrighted subject.
Well, I know a guy who's made a few books, Aaron. If you need any advice, so
no problem. So I can zip through these very quickly. So I don't even use all of these, but the main one is round corner. Mm-hmm. So especially if you're rendering anything, no matter what software that you're using, you have to bevel those edges because you don't have a right angle in real life. So when you render one, you always get weird sort of lighting, so you need to curve them off. I think that's the most important. And then we've got vertex tools. If you're working with subdivision, you want to be able to edit the mesh really, really carefully, and you need this. It's sort of essential. And then we have soap, skin, and bubble. And I don't know if you can still get this.
It's still available. It hasn't been updated for several years, but it still runs. So it's the important part.
Yeah, so if you're making cars or any sort of chassis, this is very important. And then I guess the last two really is between subdivide and smooth, which is in the name of the plugin. This is where you have to step in, which Dale did. Mm-hmm. What's it called?
Artisan?
Yeah. So artisan tools or subd. If you're doing any sort of vehicles, you need one or the other.
I think I proved that out. I did try to do a Cobra, like with native tools, and then I did it again with subd, and it was just not even. There's no comparison about how much easier it is to do that with the subdivision workflow.
No. So that's it, really. That's all I use.
Wow.
Because I've always gone across many different computers and versions. It's a pain if you have too many plugins to figure out where they are, and some of them need licenses. So I just try and keep everything as clean as possible.
Awesome. A couple more questions. Guz, you got one?
Yeah. Well, let's take a look here. Let's see. I didn't have it pulled up at the time. So let's see. Which programs do you use in addition to SketchUp throughout one drawing project?
So everything that we've seen today is just SketchUp, KeyShot, and Photoshop.
Wow.
There are a couple of Blender things at the beginning, but they were not connected. So it's just those three.
All right.
Very
Thanks for the
rarely
question.
Illustrator, but it's mainly just Photoshop, SketchUp, and KeyShot. So the good thing about KeyShot is that you can open a SketchUp file in KeyShot. You don't have to export it to another format. You don't have to mess around. There's a little button and it sends it straight there.
Oh, sweet.
Most importantly, it also sends the SketchUp camera. So if you take an export of the line art from SketchUp, it will always match the render in KeyShot when you combine it later.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, thanks for that question, Tammy. Do we have time for one more question, Aaron?
So I got one more question. This is a good question that came up because model maintenance is just something so many people ask about. Even with your components, Philip is asking, do you get to the point where your computer chokes? And I know you have you basically have the Death Star of rendering machines. So I know that's a good thing.
Not anymore. They make me give it back.
Your current setup you work on?
So we were off work on furlough for quite a long time, as you know, which is how I was able to learn Blender. So I had my work computer at home for 175 days. And that's quite a big one. So I think a 64 core or 64 thread CPU, and two 24 gigabyte RTX cards and lots of RAM.
All the RAM.
But now I'm back to my old computer. So yeah, I think it does become a problem. However, if you work with layers, it's not really an issue. And a good tip is that before you save a file, turn off all of the layers except the most basic one and the shadows, and then usually you can load the file really quickly.
That is a great note.
Because lots of people just save the file and then it takes half an hour to open. Whereas if you close everything down in the file before you save it, it will load it really quickly.
Nice.
That's great.
Okay. I think we do have production saying we have a couple more questions, so that's good. So Larry was asking, what is the industry you've seen that has become more reliant on SketchUp over the past few years? Have you seen it growing in certain industries?
I think definitely. I'm not the expert on this. He's already been on, but I think in the film and TV business around sets and props. And concept art, it seems to be a universal tool. When I speak to people on different productions and games, if you're like me, where a lot of what you need to provide isn't a model, it's just an image, you can do very rough models and then paint in Photoshop over the top, and that's really handy to do. And then obviously architecture, but there's nothing new in that area. It's always been there. But I think as set design, production, prop making, it seems to have carved out quite a big niche. When I speak to people working on films and games, someone in the team is always using SketchUp. And then combining it with other tools like Blender, Photoshop, Unreal Engine, even Twinmotion, you can really quickly put something together, in half a day that's ready to go to the boss for review.
That is cool. Yeah, Liam, it looks like we are getting a little bit close to the end here, but it was so good for you to join us and show off all your awesome artwork, man. Thank you.
It's always fun to see that. That's really cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe in 2 years when we can have another face-to-face.
That's right.
Somewhere sunny.
Awesome. I love that. I tell you what, everyone, please give Liam Keating a round of applause. Yeah, last but not least guest of the season.
That's right. Ended it with a bang. Awesome. Well, thank you. A reminder, everybody, Liam is going to head over to our Fireside Lounge on our forum. So we got a link to it down below right there. He's going to answer questions. The questions he couldn't answer, we had only got through about half the questions you guys asked. So take those questions over there. He'll help you out, answer as best he can. And man, just thank you, Liam. Thank you for your time. This is great.
No problem. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Absolutely. All right.
Awesome.
We will. We'll see ya.
All right, man. Aaron, you have some housekeeping you want to do before we close things out? The disembodied head of Guz says.
Guz. Yeah. So you guys know this. We're here. We made it. 8 episodes. This is. I don't like to use the term "the end" because I have a feeling there's going to be more of these, just not planned right now. I mean, I'm not teasing that there's another episode or anything like that. There's not. This is it. These were the 8, but I don't think anybody here is ready to be done. So I did want to throw out some things that we do have planned for the future. Obviously, some point down the line, we really want to do another in-person base camp. We're hoping that all this stuff that's preventing us from being together is gone soon, and we can get together. I don't know when exactly that will be. No details about that, but we are still planning on it. The other things, of course, check out the forum. Head over there now. Ask Liam questions. Tell him thanks again. That sort of thing. But you don't have to just do it then. Forum is a great place for us all to stay connected, even though we can't be together in person. And if anybody's looking for a spot to learn more, that's a great way to do it. You can also check out our campus. SketchUp Campus is a great way to learn SketchUp. If there's more information you want to get about SketchUp, if you're new. And I'll throw this out right now. We're going to put the link to our YouTube channel down below right now. We are going to try to just kind of keep going with this Wednesday afternoon thing. We're going to start doing our live models, which we have been doing Friday afternoons. We're going to give them a shot on Wednesday afternoons. So if you don't already follow us on YouTube, go find us now. Like I said, that link should be showing up in the CTA just any second now. And come back next week, next Wednesday, on YouTube, not here on Crowdcast, but YouTube or Facebook, and we'll do some live modeling, and you can hang out with us, ask questions, and it's a great way to just keep the community going. So that's kind of what we have planned right now. If we do more of this kind of stuff, we will, of course, do our best to let you know.
All right. Well, Aaron,
real quick,
you hear that? Yes.
Forums.sketchup.com is where our forum is. I apologize. Go for it. So,
wait, listen. Oh, there it is. So everyone, it looks like the sun is setting on our final night around the fire. Tomorrow, Aaron and I will be packing up our tents and start the long road trip back to headquarters. So hopefully, Aaron, you're ready to sing 100 bottles of beer on the wall again, all the way back, right?
Always. Anytime.
If we do it fast enough, we can reach 1 million bottles of beer on the wall. So I don't know. But yeah, that is it. It's been really fun. And I really, thanks for letting me be a part of it. Thanks for joining us. Aaron, I'll let you take it away with our words of wisdom.
All right. I'm just going to address the thing, and I don't mean to sound repetitive, but why use SketchUp? What sets SketchUp apart from everything else? And that's you guys. I think that the thing that SketchUp is lucky about is it has the most amazing user community of any software I've ever seen or been a part of. So my word of wisdom is community. Stay together, hang out, and learn together.
That's right.